record video on this just to see if it also, okay, I think it's also recording, so that's good. we'll, we'll get it going now. So I'll tweet this link. Find it here, I hope. All right, tweet. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close that because I can hear my own voice and it's disturbing. All right, y'all. Let's look at this really quick. So, what I'm doing during the stream, and what I'm hoping to do, is if you look around, every single one of our operators that we've implemented inside of RxJS is implemented very differently, and always has been implemented very differently than how, well, this is an operator. I have to go up and actually find an operator. Than how someone might implement one, or how we recommend people implement one in the real world. So we've got this operate function. We've also got this create operator subscriber. I'm going to address that in a different stream probably, but like this operate thing is what I'm looking at removing now. And what this is, if we go look at it, you see there it looks pretty mundane, but if you look at what was in version 7, which is the current production version, you can see that in here I have this bit to check to see if it's got lift, if it even lifts. And then I'm like, okay, so source, and it returns a new observable. So where the new observable comes from is this lift call on observable. And then you look at it and it's like, what does lift do? It creates a new observable, uses a couple magic properties and sets them with the operator function. Well, it is a function. It could be a class with a call method on it. And then returns that new observable. So if we go back and we look at this, what it was doing is it takes an observable, returns a new observable, which in the end is how we recommend people develop operators. But the problem here is that, so again, this is version 7. I kind of want to go, and one of the reasons I would like to get rid of lift is basically, if there's a world in which we have lift and or we have observable built into the platform, built into things like browsers and Node, and that stuff still is being discussed, believe it or not, even though it's kind of quiet on the public space, like it is still being discussed. It's not going to have lift, and lift is a mechanism that was put in there to help a lot with performance back in times when Clojure really sucked. So like in 2015, 2014, and then versions of V8 came out after that where Clojure no longer sucked. So lift was not this big improvement anymore. And what we have is just kind of evolved. If I was to go all the way back to version 5, this would look even wilder, right? Like this thing didn't exist. There wasn't a unified way to do this. This was just like, there was individual subscribers that were being put like everywhere, right? So what I want to do, or what's been done, is we're trying to get rid of lift. And so in version 8, which is still alpha right now, but it's in our master branch, lift has been removed from observable. The actual method has been removed. And in the process of removing that, it ends up looking something like this. So if I check out master, you'll see like, oh, okay. So all I did was remove lift and kind of inline what lift was doing right here. But if you look at this and you squint, you see like, oh, this is just an operator. It takes an observable, returns a new observable, and it's like, oh, I've kind of inverted this control to be like, okay, well, you give me some function and I'll give you the source and the subscriber and you figure out how to put it together. And then if you look and see how anything was developed, we'll look at map as like a simple example. Where's map? Why is map not? So there it is. All right. So you look at map as a simple example, and it's in here, and you've got like operate, and then this is all you do in the inside of it. So you can see that if I was to take this and just inline it in map, then all of a sudden we have something that looks a lot more, not exactly because of this bit, which I'm going to get to in another pull request or another time, another bit of work. But you can see that I could change this to be just like source and then return new observable, and I would have the source and the subscriber, and the rest of the code stays the same. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of this operate function in this bit of work. And to do that, I'm going to go through and first of all, I'm just going to go to this file and I'm just going to nuke it. Right. So it's going to make a bunch of things like this sad because now operate is, you know, doesn't exist. So it's all of this stuff is gone to pot. So right. But I know because I work in this code base a lot that if I was to go through and just poke around, I'm going to see that, well, this one's one that's built off of other things. I'm going to see that this gets used a lot. So this one here is, where's operate? Is operate being used here? Yeah, operate. And you look down here and it's, yeah. So it gets used a lot. It gets used in roughly the same way in most spaces. I just picked two that weren't like that. Here, you see this operate source subscriber. So I'm gonna do. I don't recommend this, but I'm like for most people. But because I know the code base well enough, I'm gonna go through and just say operate. Let's see, it's source subscriber, and I'm just literally gonna replace this with source new observable subscriber, and like when I replace this, you'll be able to see it's gonna. Literally, that's what I'm changing that to be. So this should work, but I'm going to have to go through and update imports afterwards. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to trust it because we're going to have to touch everything anyways, run tests, run builds, that sort of thing. So let me replace all these. And there's going to be more problems for sure, but I'm going to go through. Now I'm going to take this. I'm just going to close all my editors and go back and let's see, npm run build clean. So this just cleans up our dist folder. And then run compile. This is something I know to actually build it. So this is going to be give me a whole bunch of errors where I can go back and find the errors and fix them. This is going to be tedious work. So unfortunately, there's probably ways I could find and replace and guess, but then you know, might miss something. So I just go through here and I can see, oh, look, can't find name observable. That's because we don't have observable, but oh, we need to remove this one anyways. We'll just change it. Observable. All right, that one's fixed. So that was zip width. And I wish we didn't have so many operators. This is going to be the same sort of deal with latest run, window time. So this one here, we've already got observable imported. We can just remove this one. Window count. Already have observable imported. We can just remove that. Window. Same deal. Timeout. This is that time where I start to go, oh yeah, I forgot we had that. There's Rx. I inherited these operators, by the way. I don't know that I would have blessed the timeout operator had I been running things back in the day, but that's a topic for another time. Okay, so here's one where we don't have observable imported, but we do have this. So let's go through and change it. And let's just to refresh the list, let's run this again, and we'll get more build errors, and we'll see how we did. All right, window when we missed one, observable is already imported. Window toggle, observable is already imported. Observable is not there. And, you know, again, like you can look at this now and you'll see that, wow, this actually looks like how you might develop your own observable. The only difference in this is going to be this create operator subscriber bit. And there's an RFC that talks about what we can do about this already. And it basically involves like passing a second argument that has an options config on it where you can pass a subscriber as the owner. I'll dig into this in just a second after I get bored of going through problems. So let's run that compile again and see where we're at. So many errors still, of course. Let's look at tap. Tap is one of these where I just need to import observable. Take while. Observable. Take until. still need to import it. All right. There's going to be a few of these that get weird. Like a lot of these are pretty normal. Switch map is normal. I think I opened up a couple of them that were odd. Like find, I think, is one. Scan is probably going to be another one that's a little different. Share is probably going to be a little different. Let's see. This is another one that just needs observable imported. Didn't mean to add a line. Which one was that? Skip while? No. Skip while will do. All right, let's see where we're at. Compile. Skip until we didn't get that one. Oop. Let's see. Skip last. Same deal. And again, I could go through and, like I said, like I'm just going to replace all of these with, replace all of this with observable imports, but then you end up with almost as many errors the opposite direction where it's imported observable twice in some files. All right, here, this is going to be one that's going to be a little weird. And I know it's going to be weird because there was some work that was done in here to ensure that lift worked. And like one of the things that lift did or caused was this effect where like in a file, you could be like, oh, okay, so I've got a subject, a new subject, and then you could go in and you could like pipe it through operators, and then afterwards, like you could have this result. And this result, believe it or not, in RxJS 5 through 7, and no one used it this way, and don't use it this way because it's super weird and there's no real point to it. You could cast it as a subject and then next on it, and it would totally work. And what it would do is it would next like back up to the top. So it would next all the way back up here through the filter and give you the result. So like there's this thing that Lyft did that enabled us, I guess the history of it is you have Lyft and it's like, all right, I've got, I can subclass observable and add my own operator. So this is before pipeable operators. So you can add your own operators. And then if you override Lyft, then you can make sure that it's creating your subclass observable inside of there, which ensures that all of those methods are still on it, even after you call map and filter and those sorts of things. Super duper clever work, amazing work by a guy named Paul Taylor that I was working with back when we were writing this. And this whole thing with subject is kind of a side effect of that. Now, you fast forward to the future where we're using piped operators. There's no real need for that anymore. And the whole, hey, look, this is still a subject thing never, ever became useful. In fact, it doesn't work very well, as you can see in TypeScript. So no one uses it. No one should be using it. And if you did need to do this, it's exactly the same. Just give somebody the actual subject and have them next on it, right? Like you don't need this bit. So let's revert all this stuff that I changed in here. All right, so this one is weird. We don't want to be importing operate for sure. And then down here, you can see this is we're calling operate and then passing the wrapper source to it. The wrapper source comes from this source here. And like, this is weird because it's like, okay, so we have these stateful things that are happening inside of, semi-stateful things that are happening inside of, and but we also want to make sure that Lyft composes. So we need to go, we needed to call operate because that was the thing that was making Lyft work, but we no longer Lyft, right? So actually I no longer Lyft. That's so sad. I should get back into it. But we don't need this now. But we can't just one-to-one just be like, okay, like this sort of thing where you're like, all right, let's say, source equals, or goes to new observable and then do this. Like technically this works, but look how silly this is because then you're calling it immediately with this source. It doesn't make any sense. So what I can do is take this out of there. And take this out of there. And then instead of source, what we need to do is use wrapper source, but we'll just call it source. So this should solve that problem, and we eliminated some complexity too, which is good. And we'll see how that shakes out in tests. We might have a lot of weird problems after that, but I think that this is going to be totally fine. And let's move on. So let's run the compile again and see what errors we have. See, a lot of them are the same ones popping up over and over again. Oh, well, because compiling different. All right, so this one is just this guy here. We already have observable imported. We don't need this. Sequence equal. Sequenced equal is just in need of observing or getting the observable in. Scan. Okay, here's going to be a weird one because scan has some shared internals. So we don't want this because it doesn't exist. And right here, you can see like we've got the scan internals. I'm probably going to have a second pass to go through and change something about this. So I'm just going to have to like make a note. I have like a notepad open here on the side that I'll make a note in. That's just like, go back and visit scan. So just write scan in my notes. And what I need to do then is this is kind of a one-off source equals new observable subscriber. And then this subscriber needs to be passed to, presumably this was taking source and subscriber as an argument. Source subscriber. Yeah. So this is wonky. I'm not going to leave it like this. But it at least gets us past this phase. It's the minimal change required to get this one to go through. All right. So let's see. So I'm looking at some questions. Joshua Goldberg asks if a find and replace from the old import to the new import would be a reasonable thing. It is reasonable, but it actually causes, it's more than likely with this case, because I did some preliminary like checks on this, like it actually causes as many build errors the other way. And those build errors are more annoying to fix than these are, because with these, I can generally go in here and like, oh, I don't have observable, I have this, and it's like, I type 3 characters and hit tab and boom, it's fixed. So it's partially because I went and did a little bit of preliminary work on this before starting the stream that I know to go this route. All right. Let's see, sample, do we already do sample? Retry when. This already has observable imported. Retry. This already has observable imported, yeah? No, maybe? No, it does not. Oh, see, I need to go here and change this to observable. Solved. Let's run our build again and see where we're at. Repeat when. This already has observable imported. Repeat. This does not have observable imported. Race with. Same deal. See, this is why I don't want so many operators, because I have to maintain all of them, and it makes me sad to go through and do stuff. I'm only down to the P's right now, and I started in reverse. Let's see. Merge with. No, I already did that. Merge scan. Everybody uses merge scan for everything, I'm sure. All right. We just added this not too long ago, funny enough. It was more just to round out the API because we already had other things. Well, no, let me think about this. No, we had merge scan. I think we added switch scan or something. All right. Let's see. Materialize. And merge scan, this is one that existed because there was somewhere inside of, I think, Netflix's Falcor that used it. So when I worked at Netflix and Paul Taylor worked at Netflix, merge scan was added. All right, so this one we need to bring in observable. I'm sorry to say, since I am currently job hunting, if you were to hire me and ask me to add an operator, a custom operator to RxJS anymore, that would be a big no. I would not do that because here I am. I just had to maintain merge scan, and I don't know how many people are actually using merge scan. All right. Observable is empty. Is it empty? Down to the eyes. See, we jumped pretty quick. There's a big gap in the alphabet there. All right, group by. Oh, that one already has observable imported. Find index. Okay, so the find ones I know are another one that's going to be a little weird because you can see I've got this import here, create find from find. I want to refactor this a bit. Like, it's silly that file when it has to pull its guts in from the same file as regular find. You can see it's the same sort of deal as what the issue that we had with scan. So I'm going to make a note for the find and find index in my notepad over here off to the side. And because I know I'm going to have to come back to this one. So this is going to be source and then new observable subscriber. And then right here, we're going to have to call this with source and subscriber. And that should solve that. But this is not great. Like, we're going to have to come back and refactor this a little bit. All right. So where is that? That was find. Let's do finalize. Finalize is just missing the import of observable. Almost there. Expand. I do like expand. Let's see. Fix that one. Exhaust map. This whole task is an exhaust map. Tell you what. All right. There. Observable. I'll tell you what is something I picked up after I moved to Texas. Tell you what. I'll go through every one of these operators. All right. Every. Speaking of every, okay, that one already imported observable, so we're good. End with that one. And then throw if empty. This is not in alphabetical order. I thought it was. I guess I was incorrect. Filter, gefilter fish. Let's put that in there. Distinct until changed. Aren't we all? We'll go through and do that one. Distinct. Do that one. Dematerialize. Ignore elements. Ignore the elements. Let's see how far we are with this one. I'll run it again. See if it looks bad when we run it. There we go. All right, so find. I'm still importing this here. Didn't mean to do that. This is the other half of find. So this is find index is also using this method. I don't know. It's silly. They should probably just be in one file. Yeah. Okay. Let's change this one. I'll have to come back to it. Still source. New observable subscriber. And then we got to pass source and subscriber. Yeah. Need to come back to this. That's some ugly code. The organization of this is all ugly, but I don't know that I'll change that in this pass. And eliminated that. All right. So we already did find. Let's do take. Everybody likes some take. There we go. Subscribe on. Same deal. Observe on. Same deal. I feel we have to be getting close. We have to be getting close. I've noticed that my mouse on my desktop, like, because I scroll up and I click this, and then I move over to my keyboard, and then I scroll up and click, and my mouse is like slowly migrating up my desk as I do this over and over again. All right. This was which one? Default if empty. Debounce time. It's debounce time. Debounce. So this is the really not fun part of maintaining a library like this, is when you have some fairly comprehensive change that involves a lot of, oh, I already imported that one, silly me. Involves a lot of busy work of going through and changing the same thing over and over again. But what I wouldn't want to do is, I don't want to refactor too much in a single, like doing all this in one commit's fine because it's the exact same change over and over again, and I can work with whoever's reviewing it and communicate that to them. But I wouldn't like, I'm going to make sure the changes to scan and change to find are each in their own commit after that. It's related work, so it's all going to go in the same PR, but I want them to be in different commits so it's easier to review commit by commit. And then I usually still add comments on my PR afterwards. Let's see. So this one needs observable. It's so funny that, like, so think about how many files I had here. This is all dealing with observables. I never imported observable into the actual file because there was some indirection there. All right, so this is combine latest width. Let's get out of there and go to array. Reduce, same deal. Merge map, same deal. Oh, already did that one. Map. Let's get there. Almost. Come on. What was that? Buffer when? Now we'll do buffer toggle. We're in the B's, even though I know it's not alphabetical anymore. It seems like pseudo-alphabetical at the very least. That's a thing, right? Pseudo-alphabetical. Let me see. Buffer. I feel it. I feel it. I'm on the home stretch. I gotta be. Audit. Fine, we already, all right, so let's run this again because I feel like we've gone around the horn and are coming back. There could still be other errors in here. All right, so scan. Let's see what these problems concat with. All right, this one I just didn't change yet. Let's see, and missed that. Reduce. Oh wow, this one didn't even remove it. Observables in there, but we didn't remove, oh, because this one's using scan internals. This is another one. All right, add that to my notes. Scan and reduce. Should have known, should have known. All right, so here. Passing source and subscriber. Super ugly code I'm not happy about, but there it is. And moving on, so that was reduce, catch arrow. I didn't recall seeing this one yet, so that one's already important observable. I'm gonna remove this. I'll save that. No, I'm gonna remove it. I hate it. Let's see, buffer time. I thought we already did buffer time. I guess not. Probably did buffer count or something. Too many buffers. Concat with, I thought we already did. We did do that one. Reduce catcher. All right, so we're hitting the same ones over and over again. Let's see. All right, scan. It's upset with scan for some reason. Let's go look at that. Oh. It doesn't like that. That makes sense, you see, because this was a function before, and now it is not a function. So, yeah. I should have noticed that one before, but let's just change this to make it happy. Or wait. No, it's taking the arguments of this. Okay, hold on. This is nutty. So if we want to be like accurate to what this requirement is here, this is actually coming from these arguments here. Like it's saying, does it have, was seed provided? And it's only really doing it, it should only be really be doing it once right there, because you can't like suddenly provide a seed. So here's the thing. If I wanted this to be accurate to what this is actually doing, because this is being evaluated when you subscribe, I'd have to be like, okay, I'm going to pass in some like get was seed passed or some thing, and then return something like that. Like, although it's still going to gripe about this, I'm just going to just do this const has seed, because you can't like dynamically change that later on. That's not a thing. So has seed, and then just pass in, wait, is that right? If it's greater than or equal to 2, yeah, has seed. All right, so that's going to solve that weird issue. And then what else? Is this the same thing? Yeah, it's the same exact thing. Didn't notice that. I was moving too quick before. All right. So let's run this again, see how close we are. At least getting it to build anyway. It's looking good. Taking a long time is always a good sign. Yay. All right. So now let's run the tests and see what we broke. Oh, look at that. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. All right, so we didn't break any tests. Let's run our DTS lint, see if we broke any types. We shouldn't have, because I wasn't playing with types. That's all happy. Wow, that's awesome. So let's make a new branch, and we're just gonna call this, remove operate. And I'm gonna add all the files. We had so many files. Generally speaking, I would go through, and my usual process for committing, this is just so many, is just go through and be like, yep, that's one I wanted to remove, add it. Look at the changes here and be like, okay, so what actually changed here? There's some formatting changes, that's annoying, but other than that, the big changes are highlighted here. That looks right, add it. I mean, tedium, right? This looks right, that looks right, add it. And you just do that. I'm not super concerned about these, so I'm just gonna blanket add them, because it's pretty straightforward. And then I want to circle back and look at my scan and filter first. So I'm gonna look at the chat really quick and just to see if there's any other questions. There's some what ups. What up? All right. Let's see. There's a question about find and replace. Let's see. You should lower the sound of the follow notification. It's really loud. If I knew how to do that, I absolutely would. I didn't even know how that popped up. I think there's like a notification thing that shows up. Oh, look at that. I can probably just delete the alerts. Sure. Yeah, I'll delete that later. We don't want that. No alerts. Alerts bad. Okay. That was like defaulted in there. That's so ridiculous. All right, so we shouldn't have that now. Save it. All right, cool, because I didn't like that popping up either. It was startling every time. All right, so I want to go back and look at scan, reduce, and find index. Let's do find and find index first. I don't know why I'm picking that one first, but it's in part because, so we've got this thing, and the problem is that we have this higher order function where we clearly no longer need a higher order function. We could probably just do this in one function call. I still think we probably want to share this because it's literally the same thing. But the real irony to what I did here is I'm like, oh, look, I'm going to share this functionality. And if you to cut down on repeat code, which I did, but then every time you use find index, you're also technically, well, tree shaking will get rid of it, but you're also importing find because you're importing it from the same thing. Tree shaking will get rid of it, but it's, I don't know. It annoys me that I even have them in separate files. They should probably be all in one spot because it does add a little bit of overhead to your bundle when you've got these imports coming around. Like if you have a whole bunch of like one function per file, like there's a cost, a little bit of a cost to that when you bundle. All right, so ideally I would just pass these two things directly into create find. So let's look. So we've got our predicate, and then we've got emit. So I'm just going to change this to be like, okay, source is some observable of t, and subscriber is some subscriber of t. I mean, I probably could make this more precise and be like, oh, it's, well, how is this actually being used? Is it being used as a subscriber? Not really. It's just got next and complete on it, but whatever. I don't need to be that big of a weirdo about the types. All right, so got in there, and this is upset because this is saying it's either number or t. I see. All right. Well, this is an internal implementation thing. I can say subscriber or number to make it happy because it's going to depend on what type of thing that it's doing based off of this string. It's all kind of gross. I might refactor this even more, but now in theory, all I need to do is that. It's a little upset that this is not. This is a subscriber of t or undefined. What if, I wonder if I just use unknown here. I probably might end up using any just because I'm lazy, but yeah, unknown, it doesn't like that. Here we go. Take that, TypeScript, in your face, because this is not a publicly exported API. I know and can simply read what's happening here. It's that typing and getting that exactly right it's a little ridiculous. I could say like of number or subscriber T or something like that, which, like, come on. Then I still have these type problems down there. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Like adding all the extra type is not helping anything there. I know I expect a subscriber. I can infer by reading the code what it's supposed to be doing. We can skip that. All right. So that one's solved. But we need to go fix find index because it's also using that same function and it's sad now. So let's just do this. And then we run our tests. And our tests are happy. And that's not going to affect our DTS lint. Well, just to check. Run DTS lint. So that should be happy. Looks happy, or it would have failed by now. All right. So there's all that. And I need to add a commit for that. So git add. I'm going to do the commit message up here. Oh no, did I not commit? Oh my gosh. I didn't commit the other ones. Son of a poo. All right. No worries. We'll just revert those things really quick. And save that. See, that's what I get. I'm distracted on this streaming business. Let's see. It's all right. There's a quick change. Doop, 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 doop. Doop. Undo, 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 undo. All right, so we're back to where we were. npm npm t, npm run. I'm not going to run DTS lint. That's silly. Let's make sure it runs. Let's look at this. We already have everything added. Yeah, we have all these things staged. Let's get this first commit in here. So this is going to be refactor. And we are remove operator function from internals. And then just to describe it, inlining all operator function creation to be just arrow functions. There's no need for operator now that lift is gone. All right. And then, so this is just a follow-up to the do you even lift thing. So I'm going to look that up on GitHub really quick. And GitHub. So there's a pull request in here. I know you can't see this part of my screen, but I'm going to find it that I merged about lift. RxJS doesn't even lift, and that is 7202. So follow up from 7202. Yep. Not 03. 02. There. And let's commit that. I should be committed. All right. Now that I did that work, I can go back and redo the thing I was doing here. It's so silly. Copy. Let's just do the quick mode. Nope, not there. Oh my gosh. I need more working space. I inflated my font size and it's messing with me. And then, oh, not there either. Son of a gun. And I need to reduce the number of characters before I wrap. There's like a legacy thing about this. No. Did I leave that in there when I checked it? Oh my gosh, I did. Oh, I see. These are the unstaged changes. Son of a gun. All right, I just want to make sure. Hold on. Git reset head. All right, and let's go back and get rid of these two weird changes. Okay, so if I reset head, and I don't want to look at the working tree, I just want to look at find and just make sure that I didn't commit the changes that had those other things at the end. Okay, I don't have the other things at the end. I do. Dude, what did I do? Now I feel dumb. All right. I didn't want to do everything in the same commit, so now you're watching me struggle and be stupid. Let's get reset head 1 and just back out of this really quick. So this is just soft. Oh, it's so soft. I have to type my whole commit message again. And then I'm going to go find and find index. And I'm literally just going to roll those back and make the changes again. Unstage you. Let's see, revert. Discard changes. I know, I'm being annoying. And then we'll go back and make the changes again. So this is going to be, or it should be, sad. What in the world? Yeah, all right. So this should be sad now because this doesn't exist. So we delete that guy. We go down here, and this is going to be the same change that we made before. Source, and then new observable subscriber. Move the end. All right, and then operate is no longer a thing. We don't need that. All right, so that's fixed there, and then we have to fix find index again. I'm just glad I caught it before I pushed up the PR. All right, so let's run the test. Hooray! Okay, now let's add everything. And then I have to do that whole darn commit message again, which was what? Refactor, move, operate, function, inlines all. operator function creation as just arrow functions. After lift was moved, there is no use for the operate function. Related 7202. All right, there we go. Now let's commit that. Yeah. All right. Sweet. How am I doing on time? I gotta take a little girl to a soccer game here in a little bit, so I have to make sure I can wrap this up in the next hour, but I don't think it's gonna take that long. All right. Let's close all editors and then just open up find and find index, because those are the next ones I wanted to change. So these are looking bad still. And we already know what we want to change about this. We want to get rid of this bit here and there, and then add it to the end. Then this is just going to become a comma, and we're good. So that's for find, and then for find index, same deal of just becoming a comma there, and then we run our tests. And I'm not going to move this next to the other one just yet. That can be a totally follow-up PR. There's some other organizational stuff like that that I like to do to the library. But for now, let's just, we'll stage these. Let's just make sure that it's sane what we did. Yeah, that looks right. And then here, that looks right. So this is refactor. I'm just going to call it refactor find. Reduce complexity in function calls. And then this is going to be removes use of higher order function as it's no longer necessary because we are not using operate, because we're not using lift. No, wait, that's misspelled. And also because we don't even lift. There, that's a better message. Someone's going to read that someday. Like on this stream, probably is the only time anyone will ever actually read it, and they'll be amused like I am. I'm amused. This is my amused face. Right, so there's that one. The other one I had to do is scan and reduce. So let's close all these and open up scan and reduce. And these are coming from scan internals, which I think has its own file. Yep, and scan internals. All right, so scan internals, same sort of thing where we've got this exact same weirdo pattern. We don't need this anymore. We don't need a higher order function. So literally just gonna make this pass in there and go down and remove this, and that's better. But now I have to change how it's called in 2 spots. And it's notably the same as the other change, which is nice. The has seed change is there and there still too, which is interesting to me. I didn't recall that I had done that or that I had saved that, but I guess that I did. Oh. Why is this complaining? Please hold. It's complaining. I bet there's a... Aha! I see you. All right, so this is no longer... It shouldn't have been before, but like, let's see where it's called. So is this called anywhere else? I doubt it. Find all references. Yeah, it's called in 2 spots. It's here. So now this one's going to complain that there needs to be an undefined here probably. Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's run the tests and see how we did. And then let's, I'm going to look at the log message and see if I can actually like copy and paste this. Because I'm lazy and I want to type that again. All right, so let's look at scan internals. What did I change? Other than some formatting, really, the major change is just removing this higher order function. So that looks good. Scan. You can see that just reduce a little complexity there. It's not a higher order function anymore. That looks good. Reduce. Same deal. That looks good. So everything's added. And then this is a refactor. Scan, reduce. I'll just do that. Say reduce complexity. Do this exact same thing because it's exactly the same change. Only I'll move this back down here. All right, cool. It doesn't even lift. Okay. I like that it always warns me that I've gone over 72 characters, like anyone actually cares. I don't know what system would care about that, but it's a bad system. All right, so all of those things done. I think this is pretty good for our set of changes. So I'm going to push this up to origin and then create a PR from that, which I know is in a different window. So what? No, I don't want to use the extension. I'd rather use the actual web interface because I'm weird like that. All right, so I'll be back on this to see if there's any questions in the stream or whatever, but just making my PR at the moment. When I've got a PR with multiple log entries, sometimes or multiple commits, sometimes I'll literally just copy and paste the git log for the parts that matter. At least these bits here. So there's this one. And then I have to remove some other stuff afterwards. But yeah, they could go and they could look at the commits. That just makes it easier because it's in the actual, initial message. All right, so remove operate. So that should be up there. And this is for version 8 only. And we're creating a pull request. All right, so the pull request should be up now. We'll see if it passes CI here in a minute or two. But that's really the guts of this change. And it was one of those that was like an annoying comprehensive change. And you go into it and you're like, oh, it should be easy. But then you run across weird things like scan internals, or the thing with share is another interesting one. But you can see the result, though, in my opinion, is substantially reduced complexity. Like if I go and I look at map, and again, this is zoomed in, but like map is like, this looks like how you would write map with the exception of this bit. And, this bit is something we're going to change it. Just to go over what this is, this create operator subscriber is kind of just an internal optimization thing, but it does some work to make sure that it creates this operator. Ooh, no, I did not mean to click that. I hate when I accidentally do that. It does some work to create this operator subscriber class. And what this does is say, oh, so I've got this destination subscriber. So this is like where you want to send your next errand complete. And it automatically wires things up to always send things via this call right here. Always like next goes to next, error goes to error, complete goes to complete. And then it gives you the ability to override parts of it. So if you send in and on next, you can see right here we override it. And it's already wrapped in a try catch for you. So anything bad that happens in there, we'll send it along to the destination. So it's like this means of kind of handling that for you. Same thing with on error, on complete. It just adds that additional thing. So that enabled us to remove a lot of the try catching that you would have seen had you been in map. Let's see, like if I was to look out git checkout, I think like 6x for map, you can see this is a totally different thing. Like this is how much code map was before, right? And you can see when you nexted, you have a try catch in there. It's got its own subscriber. This is the thing that was going. This was what Lyft was calling, right? Like This is complicated, and this complication existed because let's see if any of them actually say so. 6 years ago, longer than 6 years ago, even like V8 was so slow with closures that we had to use classes in order to pass values around and use them inside of other functions, like so, because otherwise that project function, if we just closed over, it was just really too slow. So V8 doesn't have that problem anymore, and it just means that we shipped, what is this, like, I don't even know how many kilobytes of JavaScript. It's like almost a kilobyte of JavaScript for map, as opposed to, check out today's version. It's substantially smaller, especially after minification, like that whole guy right there. And there's some shared internals that come from this primarily that help solve that. And so I want to make this available to everybody, this sort of mechanism, right? Please don't go out and start importing operator subscriber or create operator and using it, because it's going to go away. It's internal API, like it's not exported from the root for a reason. But there's a whole RFC about it. I'd recommend going out and checking it out. Let's see. Can I bring up? I'm not particularly great at the whole streaming thing. I wonder if I can switch my stream. There's got to be a way to switch to something else. Change capture. Yeah. So I'm going to switch over to here to just switching over to my browser. Hopefully everyone can see that. Looks like things are running. That's good. All right. So if I go in here and I look at our discussions, this will give you an idea what I'm talking about with the thing. So building operators the way we build operators. There's a lengthy discussion in here, but like the crux of it is, whenever an operator does what it needs to do, there's a couple things that need to happen. One is, yes, you do need to forward along next to next when appropriate, and error to error when appropriate, and complete to complete when appropriate, those things. And we have ways to automatically do that internally. So that's like kind of this bit here. But like the other thing that it does is before you're responsible for your own error handling, we've kind of delegated that to this operator subscriber. And then also, more important and kind of a hidden like gotcha, is it does some work to recognize up front that, hey, there's a subscription involved in this, and we want to tie it to the next subscription in the chain before we start doing anything, so that if the user unsubscribes before the synchronous action is complete, we can or there's a take or something that causes it to stop before the subscribe call is done, we can stop it. And the only time this becomes a problem is if you develop your own operator and you do it in the naive way, and your own operator that you're developing has inner operators that you're subscribing to. So it'd be like if you made your own concat map or your own switch map or something like that. And the problem becomes that if one of those inner observables is a synchronous fire hose, meaning it's like, let's just say it's a while true loop that next, right? Or while subscriber not closed, next. The take won't stop it if your flattening operator is developed in a naive way that doesn't automatically wire up those subscriptions ahead of time. And we're handling that internally with this create subscriber thing, where we pass in a destination. It looks at the destination and says, oh, this is a subscriber, I know what to do. And so the solution for this is to continue to develop things in the same naive way, but the proposed solution is we add this subscription options that can be passed as a second argument, now that we only have one argument to subscribe in version 8. And subscription options will have this owner, and to the owner, you can either supply a subscription, which is just like becomes like a cancellation token, if you will. So you can make a subscription ahead of time and just pass it around. Or you can supply a subscriber, which is both a subscription and an observer. So it wires together both of those things. And that means that you develop everything the naive way, and then just add this little bit where you're taking the subscriber and passing it as an owner, and you've solved the problem. Is it the prettiest solution in the world? No, but it's a non-breaking change for at least for this version's API. It's like an addition because we're already whittling down to only one argument for subscriber or for subscribe. But it's also like a limited amount of work for us to do that. And I think it's an understandable API, and it's flexible too, because now we have this options thing that later on we can accept a signal on it, maybe any sort of other option we want to pass. So there's an RFC about this. I think we're pretty much settled on that this is probably the best API. There still needs to be some more core team discussion around it, but I'll probably have a spike out of this sort of stuff pretty soon. Let's see how my thing do. Oh, look at that. All checks pass. I'm going to request that Mladen take a look. If anyone's on this chat that wants to go review code, honestly, the hardest thing about working in open source is your reviewers and your other contributors come and go. So I don't get a lot of reviewers here. I'm just going to go through on this, and this is another thing that's important. So I have this big thing, right? So it's huge. There's a lot of stuff to go through and review. So what we really want to do is, one, in the conversation, just add like a note. Oh my gosh, GitHub's so slow. I'm going to just add the note right in here and say, note, reviewer note, best reviewed per commit. And then update that comment. And then I'm going to go in here and just call out certain things. So one thing to call out is that I removed observe rather. Let's see. Or operate. I said observe, sorry. The operate function is being removed everywhere. And look for a conversion from operate function to source new observable subscriber function, basically, right? Source subscriber. Is that enough close brackets? Sure, let's go with that. So adding comments in, so to tell people what to look for. Let's see there, add a single comment. Share was another one that was a little weird. Cancel, I didn't mean to hit print. Let's see. Share is, where are you at? Share. So I'm getting nothing through my headphones. I'll just take them off right now. So share was a little bit different. Where is it? So this, yeah. Here before we needed to make sure lift composed types, so we used a higher order function that is no longer necessary. Just inline things now. That's why this one looks a little different. Add single comments, and then let's see, scan. Yep. Higher. This one affects reduce. That one too. I keep hitting print. Find. Perfect. From. And this is the same thing. All right. So added some comments to help reviewers down the way understand the change that were made. Let's go back up to the top here. Oh my gosh, there we go. So now if you were to come in to review this, hopefully you're going to see like, oh, look, you know, there's some comments to help me out. It might take a while to get this one through, but at least it's here. Just in case nobody sees it, I'm going to add it as an agenda item, which means we're going to discuss it in the core team meeting. I'll take this off there, or it'll actually just disappear if it ends up getting merged before that. But just in case we lose sight of that one, there you go. All right. Let's go and see if there's any questions in here. Welcome to the chat room. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. That was really all the work I wanted to do on this stuff today, and it's out. I'm happy about that. The next thing that's going to happen is probably going back and looking at introducing this API, like really this API, and replacing that create operator subscriber. That's going to be a little bit more comprehensive. But I think it's important because then literally every single one of our operators will be developed in exactly the same way that we would recommend other people develop operators. So if someone comes to look at RxJS as a source of truth, it'll be a big deal. And that's, I mean, that is night and day in comparison to if I was to go in here and you look at like, you know, version 5 or even version 6, and you go into the source and you're like, okay, so what's going on? Actually, I'm going to go to version 6 because that's even way too antiquated. But you go and you look at the operators. Let's see, source, internal, operators, and you just look at like any of these, filter. I mean, yeah. So I've given talks on like how, and this is all, everything that we're at now was the product of refactoring, not rewriting. Like, yes, this here, in comparison to, you know, if I was to come over here and just look at RxJS, let's see what we're on filter. Like the comparison between that and that is, you know, night and day. It's night and day. It's wildly different. But this is all done via refactoring. Like it's not, none of it was a complete and total rewrite. Doing that, you know, honestly, in my opinion, especially for something this small, is a mistake. Like it's refactoring is, it's probably like, if you're being really good at a refactor, I'll put it this way. If I'm in an interview with somebody, or I'm interviewing somebody, or I'm working with somebody that's junior and they're really, really good at refactoring, I'm going to be going to management very quickly and being like, this person's not junior. Like this person's really good at what they're doing, because refactoring is it's a hard problem. Like, how do you, it's not only like, oh, look how this existing problem's already broken down into small problems already. Like, so you're looking at a broken down solution to small problems, and you have to further break it down into its own small problems and how you can solve those in different ways. And like, you know, it's being able to know things like, okay, so a class is just a fancy way to pass state or values or variables to a function, right? Like, you have a class and you pass things to its constructor, or you set properties on it and you call a method. What are you really doing? What you're doing is you're taking some state from that class that was passed in either from the constructor or by setting properties on it, or maybe by a function call, and then calling a function with it. How else can you get things into a function? You can get it in with closures. You can get it in as arguments. Like, so you have to kind of be able to break things down into those smaller bits and see like, okay, how can I get around, you know, fixing this? And some of this is just like, okay, well, look at this. This is called call. And guess what else has a method called call? A function. So I could make a function that did everything that this does, right? So there's just like a lot of work that went into this particular refactor. I know that I've done talks on it on like, they're published on YouTube or whatever. I could maybe go through it in another stream sometime, but like, yeah, refactoring is It's a super important skill to develop. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm so great because I know how to refactor things. I've been doing this for like 22 years. I'm still not that amazing at refactoring things. I still stumble sometimes. You saw me stumble and accidentally commit like the changes to find index, right? But yeah, like there's being able to efficiently go through. I mean, think about your code base. Probably has a ton of like just garbage code in it, and think about. And I'm not saying you're a garbage developer, but everyone's code base everywhere. You go to Google, you go to Netflix, there's tech debt, period. And if you are skilled at refactoring and making sure that you have like higher level like integration tests, so while you're refactoring, your tests don't need to change and you're still testing the same stuff. If you're skilled at doing that, then you can move the mountain piece by piece efficiently while you're working on other things and delivering other features, as opposed to being like, no, sorry, boss, we got to wipe the whole slate clean and start from the beginning because there's just too much tech debt, which is the other answer that people go for. And they'll even do it in small chunks. I'm just going to rewrite this whole chunk of something. That's not refactoring. That's rewriting, and it's just different. Like there's a difference between that and being like, oh, so I'm gonna look at it's like that game at Pharaoh's Needle, if you've ever seen that, where there's a bunch of disorganized, there's a pyramid of plates, and you have to move this mountain from one side to the other. And in order to do that, you have to move like the small one here, and then the next larger one here, and then the small one can go on top of it because you can't put the, anyways. There's whole games built around the idea of refactoring. Like you can move things methodically and carefully as long as you stop and think about it, and you get better at it the more you do it. And I do think it's always worth trying to refactor before you rewrite, because rewrites inevitably miss things, or especially if you've got unit tests around stuff and not integration tests, then you have to change your unit tests too. And I guarantee there's going to be regressions whenever you rewrite a situation like that. So, anywho, hopefully folks found that this was an enjoyable stream. I'm going to bow out for now. If any of you want to go review this, feel free. You pair programmed with me to some degree, but any review is helpful, especially in open source. So thanks, everybody.